All right, I am going live. And I don't know what. I got this horrible lighting. Well, so much for that one. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back. I don't know what. Well, no, I do know what happened. My old account got hijacked by MAGA, and they killed it. So I woke up this morning a little discouraged about what was going down, and some MAGA person that's been trolling my stuff mentioned me in a video, or no, sent me a video to look at, and I saw it, and I gotta tell you, I'm not feeling discouraged anymore. Because the amount of, just the ignorance that showed up on that video was overwhelming. But anyway, we're gonna chat a little bit about mass deportation. I don't know if any of you guys are new or seen any of my stuff or haven't seen my stuff yet, but I am clearly not MAGA, and this is not a MAGA safe zone. So if you are MAGA, we're not going to engage you. We're not having a conversation with you. I mean, you're welcome to listen. And honestly, if you stay positive, no problem. But this isn't a debate channel. There's lots of those out there that will argue with you about things. This is just about sharing information and with like-minded folks, because we're trying to prepare and figure out what our strategy is over the next 4 years, if not longer, on how to push back and how to resist this cult movement that's literally overtaken our country now. Just blown away. Needless to say, I don't know how many of you feel this way, but I was really disappointed. I felt really confident, and it wasn't because of the campaigning. It wasn't because of the crowd sizes. It wasn't because of the polls. I felt really confident because I thought and I believed that America was going to step up to the plate. I couldn't fathom that with everything that was being put in our face, the outward, just the truth of it all, the in your face facts, and let me rephrase it, what that guy and his people were saying with their own mouths right to us. I just couldn't believe that more Americans were buying into that ideology than not. It was so clear. It is so clear what that guy stands and represents. And I've been saying it for a long time. I really think that a lot of us in this country, we're at least half of us are fucking morons. But I didn't think it would be that. I didn't think there were more of them. And I still don't. It's hard to say that. There are definitely more of them that understood that they needed to get out to vote. So what does that say about the ones that didn't? Man, it's kind of tough, right? But they didn't. So here we are. Whew. And I tell you, there's a hell of a lot more important people out there, big social media influencers and celebrities and media outlets that are giving you messages and telling you things and reassuring you. And, who the hell am I? I'm just a guy. But there's also something that I believe is true, and that is that, yeah, but so are you. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe we sat back and listened and trusted and hoped that all of those institutions from our past, the traditional campaigning media and voices that normally lead us, and we just follow along thinking, yeah, they got this, we're going to be fine. It failed. Again, it's not to blame any of them. It's not to blame the Democratic Party or our candidates or mainstream media to say that they didn't do it right. They did their best to get the message out. But it wasn't enough. And I think it's because the landscape has changed so dramatically in the last decade. And we just didn't catch it or just didn't realize that that's actually happened. The landscape has changed. We're not in the same world that we were before, right? I think there's some statistics out there and some commentary around how more people are listening to and paying attention to social media influencers, YouTubers, than they are traditionally to big name celebrities or mainstream media folks. That used to have our trust, and now that's not the case. Now we're trusting people that have zero guardrails on how and what they communicate. You have to understand that social media influencers get attention by being dramatic or being sensational, which everybody does, even politicians and mainstream media. The difference is social media influencers don't have any negative impact to a certain degree the same way they do. They're not making movies, they're not selling products, they're not trying to get elected. They're just talking. So the more crazy shit they say, the more people pay attention, the more popular they get, the more money they make, even if people are paying attention to argue with them. Social media influencers, and like that Twitter sphere and the brosphere, that's dangerous because it's unchecked. It's unchecked information. Elon Musk often talks about, that mainstream media is dead and that we should be shifting to this, what does he call it? Community news or direct news, straight from the people, right out of their mouth, right to yours. And I understand what you're saying. The problem is that that's fine if you're at your local bar and Bubba walks in and wants to shoot the shit with you and starts telling you things that he believes and thinks. And you guys sit there and argue about it, you laugh about it, whatever. But it's just Bubba and you. Maybe there's 4 other friends and you're just having a conversation, right? So you'll walk away and then you have that in your mind. You don't take it as fact. You don't necessarily absolutely believe it. Maybe you rally behind the idea because you want to believe it, but you're not suspending all reason just to say, yeah, that has to be true. And traditionally, we would go back and we would see countering information. We would see news stories. We would question it, but it would make us think, well, I don't know, man, maybe Bo was full of shit because I didn't know about that. The difference is that the difference is that news outlets, even the mainstream media, they have rules. There's journalism involved. Right? And as evidenced by what happened with Fox News, even the worst of them, you can't just say whatever the hell you want. There are financial consequences to what you say. It's part of the reason why they have all of those journalistic ethics in place. Yeah, of course, mainstream media is going to lean right or they're going to lean left. But even within that, they're trying to convey a message to you. They have to find some semblance of evidence, and they have to walk the line to be careful what they say, so that it's not absolute and complete lies, or else they'll be held accountable. People in the Twitter sphere and social media influencers don't have those guardrails. They'll say whatever the hell they want. And the more outrageous it is and the more false it is, the more empowered they are. Yes, they're still subject to civil suit, not going to lie, but the damage is less, right? And it's less likely to happen. I mean, I guess we got Alex Jones as an example, somebody that just went way out there, right? Anyway, all of that was just to say, I actually believe that it's things like this. It's conversations between just regular folks like me, don't have a giant social media following, but we're talking amongst each other, and we're discussing and having these thoughts. You know what? I wonder if I want to do something here. Encourage. I forgot how to do this. Hold up, guys. Let me multi-guest. Let's say invite. No. Bear with me, guys. I'm relatively new to allow requests from viewers. Yes. Invite up to 4 guests. Let's do 5. Say. No, let's change the layout. Yeah, I think that works. 4. Save. All right. I think. All right, cool. I think that's working. Yeah, okay, it looks different. It looks different. I can't really see. There we are, cool. Anyway. So I was making a video when I realized what time it was and that I had promised to go live this morning. Again, no idea if anybody's going to show up, but I'm still going to be here and I'm still going to talk. And listen, if anyone wants to join in and converse, please do. But like I said, understand I'm not here to debate you. We're just here to have a conversation, right? And I don't mind opposing views or questions or anything like that. And we can have a conversation. But again, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind or convince you of something. At this, it's not about that right now. It might be in the future, but not right now. You know, damage was done. And all of that debating and conversing and trying to convince people of facts didn't do it. So just so you all understand, my philosophy on moving forward is fundamentally fuck around and find out. I talked about this in a video before. I'm trying to bring together a coalition of regular people like me that want to get involved and do something. We're going to develop a network to share information and communicate, and also have a consistent message that we put out to the masses. And if I'm successful, we'll have a lot of people involved. If not, then it'll just be me in the corner screaming as loud as I can. But what's the idea? It's simple. I believe that we need to change how we message and communicate with people. The number one mistake that I think happened, and I know it happened with me, and I think it happened with a lot of folks, is that we did not engage MAGA, and that we ignored them to a certain degree. And not just during this election cycle, but over the last 8 to 10 years. We didn't ignore them completely, because we pointed fingers, made fun, and called them idiots, and talked about how they're just wrong, right? And some of you people even debated them. But even those debates were really aimed around kind of calling them out for just being wrong. I don't know that there was a concerted effort to actually engage, to properly educate and influence and change minds. Because I think all of you know, especially with MAGA, Rachel Maddow and Joe Scarborough and Anderson Cooper, they're not going to change MAGA's minds. That ain't going to happen. Especially, halfway through, once they started to believe the whole idea that mainstream media was just corrupt and evil and the bad guy, and they couldn't be trusted, that they could only trust Trump, we lost that ability, right? As crazy as that sounds, that they would believe that guy was the only one that had credible information, and everybody else, well, let me correct that, and anybody that said anything bad about him clearly was uncredible. That they bought into that, was crazy and unbelievable, but the reality of it. Anyway, so that's how we ended up where we did, right? We couldn't rely on the people that had the media presence, that they had the capability to counter what was happening in MAGA, because they were cut off. So how do we do it? How do we change it? It's simple. I was talking to my wife about it the other day, and it's like, when you think about it, and you hear this a lot. You hear people say, well, the Democrats were only come around during election time. Well, the truth is true on Republicans too, but not with MAGA. MAGA has been in your face for the last 8 years. Trump won't shut up. And it isn't just Trump, but it's his whole community of obnoxious, loud people out there just ranting and raving, right? And on top of just their presence, there was the message. And the whole time, while the Democratic Party and us on the left were chilling, just hoping and maybe pushing reason and facts out to people, right? And relying on the news media outlets to convey that message, Trump every single day was just sitting there pounding his lies into MAGA every day, over and over and over and over again for 8 fucking years. So what happened? Research shows you repeat a lie long enough, people will believe it, especially if they want to believe it, and it taps in on some inner demons they might have. And that's exactly what happened. MAGA beat the lie in to their people over 8 years. Then all of a sudden, it's election time. And with about, 150 days or something, we have this new candidate that's out there saying, oh, all of that's lies. And they don't even know who this lady is, right? Yeah, they're not going to believe you. And not only that, it wasn't not just the people that have been lied to, but that movement, that idea that anything that anyone says, it's not Trump or his cronies, is absolute bullshit, you know? That was the problem. And here comes my child. Hey, dude, I'm on a live here. What you doing? What's up? Good morning.
I got 10 points.
Okay.
Upstairs.
All right, you got it. Good job. Okay. Yeah, so where was I? I'm talking about that idea, but I'm kind of getting off topic, you know, and I think it's going to happen a lot. I tend to jump all over the place. But what my primary where do I see messages? Does anybody know how to see messages? I see comments. Let me see. Hold up a second. Yeah. Activity, live test, system. I don't know. Not exactly sure, yeah. So people are going to join and say, all right, this guy's clearly fumbling around with the live tools and don't know what the fuck he's doing. I'll figure it out. But yeah, just bear with me, homies. We're gonna figure this out. And then we'll be cooking with spam. I saw a message say, hey, you got a message, but I don't know where to read it. So what the fuck? Not in the middle of a live, at least. Maybe it was just a normal TikTok message. Anyway, so it's funny. So I you know what blows me away the most? Well, there's a lot of things that are just mind-boggling to me. The Latino vote. Man, I've made so many posts about, you know, how could you be supporting Donald Trump? I've made posts and videos about trying to figure that out, analyze it just from a layman's perspective, right? Just an average guy. I have Latino blood in me. My mom was Garcia. She passed away a long time ago. But, you know, I'm mixed. You know, dad was a redneck from Kentucky. My mom was a Mexican-American from South Texas. And of all my family, I'm the dark one. Kind of funny. They always said, they would make jokes that I was the milkman's kid because I didn't look a lot like my dad. I got all my mom's sangre. Anyway, so I would talk a lot, right? I come from South Texas, right on the border, man. I grew up right on the border. When I was in high school, we would go on the weekends into Mexico to party at the clubs. There was a whole strip of nightclubs right across the border that were just as nice and clean and safe as you'd find in the U.S. This is back in the 80s. And all of us young kids would just go park on the border, walk across, or drive if we felt like it, and go into Mexico and party like we were in college because the legal drinking age was different. So at 15, you're in a club. So there you are, right? So I totally grew up right on the border. That's what that example was. Right. I mean, I was so close to the border, I would sometimes go to Mexico for lunch and come back. Yeah. I spent about a decade in law enforcement. I worked with the U.S. Border Patrol. I was an agent. Very passionate about, you know, the whole border situation, immigration, and the Latino community. And I couldn't believe that people would be supporting him, especially with all of the things that he was saying and trying to do. He made immigration and controlling the border and his racism such a big part of his ideology. And he didn't hide it. He didn't hide it. So I couldn't understand. It's like, why were so many people... I have family and friends that are supporting the guy, and they're from South Texas. They're Latino. What? Why? I didn't understand it. I have a lot of theories as to why, and I still, you know, I never expected. I was very sad and disappointed that half of the registered Latino voters in America voted for Donald Trump. Okay, so after that, I see a lot of videos, and a lot of my friends are like, all right, man, well, you're going to find out. And I don't think there's going to be a more stark example of fuck around and find out than what the Latino community is about to experience over the coming years, and based on electing Donald Trump into office. Some of the things that I always hear from the people that support him is he's talking about illegals. I'm Latino, and I'm all for legal immigration, but they got to do it the right way, right? Your average white person says that, and you can understand the ignorance, right? Because they just don't know any better. And to them, reasonably so, it sounds like a just argument, right? Don't break the law and you'll be okay. Because they don't have that experience, right? They didn't grow up in a society where, no, it isn't just about following the law, right? Black Americans know that. and they've been screaming about the law being unjust for decades. And it wasn't until Trump started finding out about the law that now some of his people are like, well, the law is unjust. He's crazy. But people on the border, Latinos, there's history there, man. They know, they see it, they should understand. It wasn't that long ago in the 50s where there were mass deportations. And back then, I get it, some people don't pay attention. Back then, it was the same argument. It was, we're just going to deport the illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants. That's who we're going after. But that's not what happened. And I promise you, American citizens are going to be caught up in these mass deportations and will be deported to another country. It's going to happen, without doubt. I hope it's some of those guys. I hope it's some of my friends, because they need to learn. That's bad, right? So why is it that I think that, and how can I prove it? Because of history and just practical logic speaking, right? The practical application of an operational objective to deport millions of people, immigrants, illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants, it cannot happen without a lot of legal immigrants and U.S. citizens being caught up in it. They will. Why? Well, you got to think about it. Okay, you got these people screaming about. He's talking about deporting over 10 million people. And he wants to do it fast and hard because it's a political statement. Because he's speaking to his base, and there's a whole lot of racism in there. And there's a lot of, he's built up this fear that these guys are destroying the country. So he's got to speak to them and show them that he is that big savior. He's the white hope, the great white hope. He's going to make it happen. So he's going to do it fast. Point is that he's been saying it. A lot of times he throws bullshit out there just to, lie to people. And in this particular case, he did by saying that he's focusing and it's all only about illegal immigrants. Okay. So there's a bunch of things that we have to talk about when we talk about immigration and MAGA and mass deportations, because we've got to set the foundation. You guys have to understand some core elements to this. There's information you just have to be on board with and get. Okay. First of all, let's think about the actual factual difference between an illegal immigrant and a legal immigrant. I know that word illegal, it should be undocumented, undocumented. This is decades. I'm trying to change that. I don't mean any offense by it, but it just comes out that way. But also just the fact that, and it's going to slip a lot. So I'm making a disclaimer now, and I apologize. I'll work to get better. But undocumented versus documented. What is the true difference between the two? Okay. So let's talk about the documented immigrants. And well, first of all, there's one thing to understand. The vast majority of what you consider undocumented immigrants in this country aren't undocumented immigrants. Okay, you guys get it. A lot of people get it mixed up because you see these millions of people coming in, and they call it an open border because for some reason they think we're just letting everybody in, right? When somebody comes to the border and they try to attempt between a port of entry, they are committing a violation called entry without inspection, right? Because the law says you have to present yourself to an immigration official at a port of entry to be inspected for admission into the United States. So if you come through between a port of entry and you don't do that, right, then you're breaking the law. So that's key. Presenting yourself to an officer for inspection is a key element to this. If you don't do that, you broke the law. Okay, but you come across the border and you're caught, you're apprehended. First of all, the vast majority of people that are coming across are intentionally being apprehended. They walk up to officers and say, "I claim asylum," right? That's a key thing. That's the majority of them. There are others that try to just sneak all the way in and make it into a city completely, and completely get away with it. Those numbers, the number of those folks in the past used to be a lot more. These days, very few of them actually succeed. Again, most of them are being apprehended or directly presenting themselves to an immigration officer. Now, whether they present themselves by saying, "Hey, catch me," or they get caught, the first thing out of most of their mouths is, "I claim asylum," right? And by claiming asylum, they are then afforded an opportunity to have their case heard in a court of law. I mean, that's human rights stuff. That's international law, right? Someone claims asylum. There's ways that you can go through that. And this is part of our problem of why this is part of the catch and release thing that everybody was debating against. Because basically it says, okay, well, you can have your day in court. We're going to let you claim your asylum because, it could be true. And man, we're a nation of law. So you are going to be given a day in court. Okay, great. Well, we only have 10 immigration judges, so your court date's 4 years from now. Yeah. By the way, those that didn't know, that was part of what was in that border bill that Trump squashed. It was increasing the amount of judges so that we could expedite the process so that people that claimed asylum could be given their day in court quicker so that they could either be sent back home or given legal proper asylum, right? He said no. So we still have that problem. You have all of these people that have come over and legally claimed asylum that we have to somehow deal with. So now they have a day in court. So just like when you get a traffic ticket, right? And you're pulled over and they say, okay, you were speeding. You need to show up on court on this day. They give you a piece of paper and then you move along. If you ever get pulled over, let's say you don't have registration and you're on your way home after getting the ticket. A lot of times another cop pulls you over, you show them the ticket. I just got cited for that. And they let you go, right? Well, think about the documentation that they give you. When they give you that court appearance and the documentation that we're going to listen to you and give you your day in court, they basically give you legal status. Right at that moment, you are now within the United States legally. They give you a temporary visa, if you will, that says you're welcome to hang out in the country until your court date, right? And technically, right, there's some responsibility on the U.S. government, just like when people are arrested to a certain degree, to make sure that these people aren't just going to go out into society and just, be homeless and maybe start committing crimes. So we well, hell, shit, here, go over here. There's a halfway house, or maybe even here's a little money, something, right? Because you got to wait. Now, a lot of people argue that that's just bullshit because in their mind, everybody coming across are all criminals. They don't deserve asylum. Think about that for a minute, right? I mean, in order for us to basically enact or follow up on that idea that everyone coming across doesn't even deserve an argument, a day in court for us to consider their asylum, we have to literally change our own civil rights. The rights in our Constitution in the United States don't just apply to Americans, by the way. You guys think that. It's not the case. It's people in our country. All of them have the same damn civil rights. We would have to suspend rights. We would have to suspend the rule of law. We would have to change things to basically say you don't have any rights here and you need to get the hell out of Dodge, right? So basically saying you don't have the right to claim asylum. I mean, you can't have it either or. Either you give them a day in court or you don't. And if you do give them a day in court, then you have to make sure they can do that. So you give them paperwork, say you can come back, right? You can come back and you can go to court. So what Trump was trying to do back then, and honestly, debatably, it's a questionable thing. I didn't agree with it, right? But it was shutting down the wall and say you can claim asylum, but you can't come in, right? So when your court date comes up, then you can come in and we'll let you in, right? And again, there's a reasonable argument on both sides, I think, on whether that was good or a bad thing. Personally, I don't think it was a good thing by any means, right? Because basically what we were saying, people are running, trying to claim asylum. We're saying, yeah, no, we'll get back to you in 4 years. I need asylum. Help me out here, man. I'm running from something bad. It's the whole idea that, yeah, no. There's a 4-year waiting period to get asylum. No, there's a 4-year waiting period to even ask for asylum. So no, I never agreed with that. Whole different conversation, right? But why am I going down this path? I know some of you might just be joining, but I'm trying to explain the true difference between an undocumented and a documented immigrant. So first of all, again, the ones that people talk about and think are undocumented and want to call illegal aren't. They are here legally waiting for their court date. They came in, they were apprehended, they were given a court date and legal permission to be in the United States while they wait. There are a lot of nonprofit and government organizations that are trying to help keep these people from, ending up in a bad situation. Now, those people that come over here and are waiting for asylum, this is the other part that's crazy. And some of this is just the lies that come from the right. It's that all of a sudden they're going and they're just getting welfare. First of all, no, illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants cannot get welfare benefits. That's not the way that it works. No, they're not given a house. Yes, some of them are given a phone, but guess what? That phone isn't a phone. It's a tracking device. It's literally a cellular device that only has one program, an application, an app on it that allows that person to check in with the immigration service and say, here's where I am, here's where I am, and communicate back so that when we release them and let them stay in the United States while they're waiting for their court and date, we know where they are. That's what that is. So no, they're not getting iPhones so they can go play and play games and make international calls. But, that truth is inconvenient for the MAGA movement. So people spread lies about their giving cell phones. Point being is, they're not here illegally. There's a very small percentage of all of those people that you see that came up to the border that would be considered completely undocumented. And those are the ones that didn't get caught at the border. And that just doesn't happen in the numbers that it used to in the past, because we actually did do a pretty damn good job of locking it down. And it happened way before Trump. I used to work in the agency. It's my whole family is law enforcement. My younger sister is, she's been in there forever. I'd left after about 10 years. She's been in there forever. She runs a whole sector of the well, not a sector, but she's a big shot. Let's put it this way. Anyway, I know something about what's going down over there, and it's not like they're saying. You see all those people come up to the border, and they've convinced you all that it's just this mass invasion. It's not the case, right? But okay, I digress. So yes, there are actual undocumented immigrants in the United States. The vast majority of them are documented. We know about them. Now, of the people that come over, there's another group of folks that a lot of you don't think about, and that is people that have come in legally, right? Maybe on a work visa, or maybe to go to court, right, for their asylum date, and then either A, skip their court date, or B, overstay their visa, right? So these are people that came into the country and decided to just stay, even though they were supposed to go to court and they didn't. Remember, these are like 4 or 5 year court dates sometimes. So in order for that to happen, that group of people would have had to have been here a long time. And for the most part, once their court date comes out, if somebody doesn't want to go and present themselves, it's because they're probably terrified. They've already created a life in the United States. They've been here years. 99.9999% of them are working. You guys have seen the number, right? It's not bullshit. $96 billion contributed in income and tax and revenue by undocumented immigrants. They are not draining from our society. They've been giving to our society. But again, that's a whole different topic. Okay, so first of all, there aren't a lot of undocumented immigrants here. So when MAGA talks about undocumented immigrants and deporting them all, you got to think about it. Are they really telling the truth? Are they talking about that very small percentage? Why are they saying 10 million if it's really not that many, right? Because it's bullshit. Because it's never been about just the undocumented and illegal ones, right? It's always been about fear-mongering, just like they did in Germany in the 30s, right? They turned immigrants into this enemy, into the problem. Rich people convincing Americans that it's the other poor people. The poor people that are coming into our country to make their life better by working are the problem. That's why you're poor. That's why your groceries are high. They've convinced you. That was all lies. Again, a completely different topic. Yeah, I told you I'm pretty bad about jumping all over the place. But there's something else that you probably don't think about and probably don't realize. Let's talk about the rhetoric, right? Because they've convinced Americans that undocumented immigrants are vermin, they're rapists, they're draining, they're criminals, they're the worst part, and they're coming over here and they're doing horrible, horrible things, and they should be feared and they should be expelled. That's what they convinced them. But they say that, and when they say it, they're like, we're talking about the undocumented immigrants, not the documented immigrants, right? All right. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they're trying to be legit, and that's a real thing, that they don't think that documented immigrants are horrible. First of all, remember, A lot of the immigrants that come across the border don't present themselves for inspection, claim asylum, and are then released in the United States as legal immigrants while they wait for their court date, okay, are the people that MAGA is talking about. They consider them part of the illegal, which means they consider them the animals, the vermin, the grapists. It's that group, that large group of people that they show pictures on TV of them coming across in mass quantities. That's who they consider the illegal immigrants, even though they're not. But even so, let's talk about the rhetoric, right? There's one group of people, documented immigrants, and then there's another group of people, undocumented immigrants. If you believe MAGA, they're only talking about undocumented, and they're the ones that are evil, vermin, and bad, and the other ones aren't. They say that, knowing it's bullshit. But do you know what the true difference between undocumented and documented really is? The differentiation, what makes them illegal? It's the commission of that crime, entering without inspection. That's a misdemeanor. The only crime that those folks committed versus the ones that have legal documentation is literally the equivalent of running a fucking red light. Okay, so you came in, didn't present yourself for inspection. It's a misdemeanor. That's it. I know because I prosecuted people for that on the border. We would catch 20, 30 people, and we would identify which one of the people that are in that group are what we call a coyote, right? The smuggler, the guy driving and leading them through, and we would find them. And I'm going to tell you a really fucked up story about this. God, I don't know if I'm totally digressing here. Okay, I'm gonna digress because I got to tell you the story because it's pretty jacked up. And it's one of the things. It's one of the reasons I actually left the agency, amongst many other reasons. But when you would apprehend a large group of undocumented immigrants that have come across the border, and you catch them out in the woods, and you take them back to the station to process, our objective was try to identify the coyote, right? Most of us, we weren't concerned with just the average guy or gal coming across us just trying to make their life better, right? We would give them the opportunity to just go back to Mexico voluntarily. We would call it voluntary return. We'd say, hey, man, we're not going to charge you with any crimes. We'll give you the option that you can go back. If they claim asylum, it's a little different, but we it's called VR. Just send them back. And then they'll try again, Now, when I came on board, we instituted this new technology, so we started fingerprinting everybody. So if we would apprehend them and let them go back, we'd warn them, if you keep getting caught, eventually you will be charged with crime and actually formally deported. Now, being formally deported has a huge impact on your ability to ever come to the country legally. Think about that too. We deport 10 million people, they're never coming back. It isn't about go over there and try again legally. No. That's not how the law works. You get deported, getting back in is a snowball's chance. It's already hard. But having been legally deported from the country because you committed a crime, man, it's almost impossible to get back. So we give them the option to just voluntarily return, right? But before we do that, we separate them and interrogate, which basically we just interview. We talk to people. We try to gain their trust. There's this poor lady that's very afraid, and we tell her, hey, we know that you're not bad, and da-da-da-da. We don't lie to her, but we tell her, everything's going to be fine. But who is the person, just point them out to us. That's who we want, right? That's who we want. And we find a few, 2 or 3 people that will finger the smuggler, right? And then we get the smuggler. We got him. We've got 3 people that identified you. We figured out who you are. Now we got the smuggler. We can charge them with more serious crimes, smuggling, etc. Here's the fucked up part. We need witnesses, right? Sworn statements. We need all of that. So guess who of all of the crowd doesn't get to voluntarily go back on their own anymore? The people that stood up and said, we'll help you, and point out who the smuggler is. We literally then have to charge them and detain them in order to obtain all of the documentation that we need against the smuggler. by being charged and detained, the odds for them coming back in the future is dramatically reduced. So we literally stab them in the back. Group of 100 people, we catch them all. We convince 4 of them to basically turn on the smuggler. Everyone else gets to go home. The smuggler gets charged, and so do those people that decided that they would help us. That's jacked up. That's the way it works. There's a certain amount of time when you do that. I mean, it just chips away at you. These are people like you, you know, and the struggle that they're going through to come across the border is for their family. They're bringing their kids with them, or, you know, a lot of times they're young kids that are coming across that are just coming to work so they can send money back to their starving family. It breaks your heart. I saw it. I know it. You know, I grew up with a lot of these types of folks, if you will, right? With that community, not illegal or illegal, just Latinos on the border. They're no different than us, man. They are no different than us. So yeah, it really boils my blood when I hear people, you know, talking about them as if they're some evil scourge on America. I would easily trade 10 of those immigrants trying to come here for one MAGA racist all day fucking long. I actually made a video post about this. I believe it. I believe that the immigrants that are coming into America with a backpack and their kid in tow, trying to escape a horrible government, a horrible situation. They're trying to come to America to take advantage of our freedom and the opportunity that we possess, right? That beacon of light on the hill, the beacon of democracy. They want to be a part of that. I honestly, firmly believe that they represent more of who we are as America than most of those people that are following Donald Trump and trying to put him in this authoritarian position. Those people have forgot it. And it happens. You're in a country, you get spoiled rotten, right? You don't understand it. You didn't fight for it. You weren't here. You don't remember King George or any of the shit that has happened since then. You didn't. You just sat there on your ass and took advantage of all the freedoms and the benefits that others fought for. So you don't appreciate and understand it. That's it, right? And also you want to protect everyone else from getting the same freedom you got. Fuck you. Yeah, immigrants trying to come into this Mexico are closer aligned with our founding fathers than most of the people that live in this country today. They forgot their way. They're more American than you. Well, maybe not you, but you know what I'm saying. The difference between an undocumented and a documented immigrant is the equivalent of running a fucking stoplight. It's a misdemeanor. Does that justify saying that if you ran the stoplight, you're vermin, you're an animal, you're a rapist? If you didn't run the stoplight, you're not? You see, the logic here is that there's no difference really between one or the other. It's not some giant violation and invasion just because they committed a misdemeanor. But it goes beyond that. And this is the part where we get into the mass deportation. This is the part where just the common sense and logic that's absent in so many people that are supporting Donald Trump, especially the Latinos, that is frightening. And it's not frightening because I worry about what they're going to do to me. It's frightening because they represent clearly a large swath and a majority of Americans in America right now. That's who we are. We just showed the world who we are. Now, we can change that because I still think there are a lot of people out there that didn't vote. For whatever reason, they didn't get the right message. They didn't get the message, period. They just stood back. But that's who we are. And that's scary. That was the biggest disappointment. Wasn't that Donald Trump's going to be president. It's that so many Americans are fucking morons. Pardon my French. Because, you know, of all the people that voted for Trump, I think a third of them actually aligned with him in his rhetoric. And maybe know that it's bullshit. But they're part of it. They're part of the con. I think 2/3 of all his supporters are just low intelligence people that, I mean, they're just morons. They just believed the con. And I'm sorry, I know that sounds harsh, right? Because it's like calling them victims, or it's like attacking the victim because they were lied to. They believed the lie and saying that they're bad guys. But being a moron isn't a bad thing. It just is. It is what it is, man. The word ignorance doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means you just don't know any better. right? So all of those people were susceptible to the con. And I'm sorry, weak-minded people tend to be more susceptible to bullshit. Morons tend to be more susceptible to bullshit. Do you think it's coincidence that there are more uneducated rural people with a lot less world experience and cultural diversity than there are on the left? Do you think that's coincidence? Why do you think that is? If you're exposed to more cultures, have higher education, learn and know more stuff, you know what's going on the right. Doesn't that say something? Right? You shouldn't be proud of not knowing stuff, people. You shouldn't be proud of living in your little bubble. That's not a good thing. You know, I grew up and I go to the doctor's office. I trust the doctor. He knows more stuff than me about medicine. I trust him. People with college educations know more stuff. People that have been exposed to different cultures and live in large cities know more stuff. You should trust and listen to them to a certain degree, right? And not the people that are trying to tell you that, oh, they're going to try to change your little redneck community. No, they don't give a shit about your redneck community. They just don't want you up in their business trying to push your rural, archaic, antiquated fucking belief system on them. Your Bible says somebody is gay, shouldn't get married. Fine. Don't be gay. Don't get married. That's up to you. Or hide in the closet, right? That's you. We don't care. Do what you want. But don't come over here and tell me we can't. What the hell's wrong with you? And that's the thing. No one on the left ever tried to remove rights from somebody on the right. Think about that. We're not saying you have to be gay or marry another man, right? We're not saying you have to do that. We're saying we want to do that. Leave us the fuck alone. The right are the ones that are always trying to impose their will on other people. And they're the ones that want to remove rights from people. They want to say, we don't think you should be marrying the same sex. Show me an example. I want one. Somebody. Okay, we're not debating. I would love to hear somebody give me an example of where somebody on the left tried to remove rights from somebody on the right. It doesn't happen. Yeah, I'm all over the place. Let's go back to immigration. So I've talked about several things. First of all, understanding the true situation of what is documented, what is undocumented. Following up on the bullshit where MAGA talks about and have convinced you that they're only talking about illegal immigrants. Because that's what I get mostly from people that I know in the Latin community that have supported Donald Trump, right? It's because they think they're only talking about illegal immigrants, right? And it might not even be the immigration thing that was why they voted. But I'm sorry, if you're a Latino supporting Trump, in the middle, amidst all of his rhetoric around immigrants, something's not right up here. Which would explain why you believe that somehow Donald Trump is going to make your groceries cheaper. Right? Somehow that drill baby drill, or somehow you believe that we have a energy deficit when we literally are drilling more right now and are producing more fucking energy here than we ever have in our history and more than anyone else in the world. But they told you that literally that's just not true and we got to drill. I'm sorry, the fact that you're Latino voting for Trump or voted for Trump shows that, yeah, you're kind of dumb. So, of course, you're going to believe all the other fucking stupid shit that comes out of that guy's mouth. Fuck around and find out. Right? White people are going to look and say, yeah, there they go. They're rounding up them immigrants. It's happening. Latina's going to be, yeah, look at that bus coming over there, going to get our neighbors that are here illegally. And then there's going to be a knock on their door. Hey there, Pedro. Let's go. Get on the bus. Well, I'm here legally. Oh, well, we'll figure that out later. You know, we don't have the resources to validate your legal claim right here on your doorstep, sir. But that's okay. We got a camp and a process. We're going to handle that later. What are you talking about? Come on, get on the bus. Let's go, Pedro. Oh, I like that MAGA hat. Get on the bus. We're going. All right. And there's me looking at him. Later, dude. I gave an example that isn't complete nonsense. Think about this today. Remember that story I told you earlier about a legal claimant, somebody that's claiming asylum, that would need to go to an immigration judge to make their case, and how there's a 4-year wait and a backlog to make that case with that judge? Guess what else that immigration judge would do? At some point, we're going to have to determine if you're truly a legal immigrant or an illegal immigrant. Or beyond that, if you're really a citizen and that's not a fake birth certificate. Because you guys look the same. Documents can be forged. Yeah, undocumented immigrants could have been here 4 or 5 years and speak really good English. I don't know. I'm going to have to figure out if you really are a U.S. citizen. All right, you're going to have to go see an immigration judge and prove your citizenship, sir. No, the documentation you got isn't enough. We're going to have to go and have it done the right way. Okay, but there's a 4-year waiting period. Oh, actually, no, it's more like 8 years now because we're doing this to millions of people. What do you mean 8 years? Yeah, 8 years. Don't worry. Hang out in Mexico while we wait, or in this camp. Oh, shit. Yeah, oh, shit. The bottom line is that somebody is going to have to make a legal determination of whether or not you truly are a U.S. citizen, a documented immigrant, or an illegal immigrant. Wait, that's crazy. Why? Because of how you look and because of your race. That's why. And guess what? It happened before. In the 50s. I'm going to say this word. No, I'm not going to say the word. Operation Moist Back is what it was. In the 50s. Same thing. Mass immigration. Oh my God. Now that one was actually a little bit different. I'll tell you why. Because back then, the Mexican government was actually cooperating with the United States during that operation in the 50s. And that operation came after. It came on the tail end of a different operation called Operation Vaquero or Vaquero, right? This was during the Second World War. The Mexican government and the United States basically made an agreement. Mexico had a serious problem with labor, unskilled labor. America had a serious problem with the lack of labor. They agreed that they would open the gates and let a lot of Mexican citizens come into the United States on temporary work visas to help during the war effort, etc., right? And that they would have to go back. And Mexico was like, well, when they come back, we'll have all these skilled laborers. And then, of course, there's monetary incentives that the governments were sharing. So it was this big agreement. It was an experiment. It failed miserably because the bottom line is that they still had a process for those Mexican folks to come through and get one of those visas, and it was too difficult. And it wasn't. They weren't bringing over enough to satisfy the needs. So you still had agricultural companies in the United States bringing people in illegally. So there was still a problem with illegal immigration. Not to mention people that were coming over as part of the Vaquero program were staying. So it just got messy. And they were like, oh, this isn't working out. Never mind, right? Now let's put in, there's a lot of politics involved in that too. Let's not forget that. It's not all logical and practical. A lot of racist white people in America did not like all of these immigrants coming into their country. This is the 40s and 50s. Racism was pretty damn rampant back there. So yeah, they didn't like that either. So political pressures came in too. So they instituted this new operation called Moist Back. I'm saying it wrong. It starts with a W. But anyway, that was literally what Trump's talking about doing. Where there's too many undocumented immigrants in the United States, we got to round them up and we got to deport them all. So they put this operation in place. And they brought in the U.S. military, they brought in local and federal law enforcement, and they started adding additional Border Patrol agents, and it became this big operation. And it started on the border and slowly moved up into the interior of the country to round up illegal immigrants and ship them out. And there's documented fact. This is real history, how bad that went, and it happened the same way that I'm explaining to you that it's going to happen in the future. Because there's no other way for it to happen. You can't deport millions of people unless you streamline a process. Think about that. First of all, we don't have enough immigration judges out there. We don't have enough legal Border Patrol agents, right, and immigration officers to actually validate citizenship. So you're going to have to rely on the military. You're going to have to rely on law enforcement. Immigration law is very complex, right? So those people are going to have to make a determination of citizenship on the door. Wow, that's weird. I think somebody needs to comment. Here, I'll comment. TikTok said, dude, there's not enough activity. We're going to end your life. And I'm like, but I'm talking. Isn't that activity enough? Clearly not. Anyway, that's okay. I'm just talking. You know what's cool? I can get this live and make little video clips from it. But, fuck, I forgot where I was. Oh, yeah, we're talking about the actual act of doing... Hey, Kimber, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Actually, we're talking about the actual act of the deportation and how it's going to work and how it's going to happen just like it did back in the 50s, but worse. It'll be worse. A lot worse back then, right? Back then, there was still some semblance of a normal political structure. Presidents weren't just saying what they thought out loud, right? Now, it's totally different. You know, there's an outward anger towards this thing, and they're saying whatever the hell they want. Also, back then, they had the cooperation of the Mexican government. We don't have that now, and we don't, and we won't in the future. So it's going to be a lot worse than it was in the 50s. Also, our infrastructure is bigger and better. So we have more people, we have more money. So it's going to be worse. In the 50s, when they did this, they deported thousands of United States citizens, tens of thousands of legal documented immigrants, and millions of illegal or undocumented immigrants. A lot of people got deported and that should not have been. A lot of Latinos that voted for Trump will be deported without fucking doubt. Mark my words. Somebody take a note. It's absolutely true. And this isn't just the crystal ball of me saying, no, logically speaking, listen to why and how it's going to happen. Again, somebody has to determine who will be deported. And if the criteria is an undocumented immigrant, right? Somebody's going to have to validate if that person is in fact an undocumented immigrant and here illegally. Who's that going to be? One of two things are going to happen. You're either going to follow a legal process, right? With and maintaining all of our civil rights and giving everybody a day in court, which means somehow there's going to have to be mass amounts of hearings for every single person that we want to deport. Is going to have to go through some court system so that they can say, yeah, no, I'm documented. I just lost my paper or something, right? Or we're going to have to suspend that and give the power out to law enforcement to make that determination on the fly, right? It's got to be one or the other. Which is going to be more efficient? Well, there's several ways we can do this. We can have an immigration judge knock on everybody's door, make the determination themselves right then and there, legally validate that they're not here, and then from that point, put them on a bus, send them to a camp, get them deported. Yeah, so we're going to hire 1 million immigration judges. That's not going to happen. Okay, well, the next thing would be, well, we have an officer make a complaint that somebody is an illegal immigrant. I say complaint because in the legal process, when you get arrested, you're not convicted yet, right? Somebody just thinks because there's probable cause, they believe you committed. That's what the cops do. They just arrest you, take your freedom, but they put you in front of a judge. The judge makes the decision, or a jury, whether or not you actually violated the law. The same thing is with immigration. So is the officer making the determination that you are in fact illegal and undocumented? Or are they just making the arrest and someone else is making that determination? So let's go with that part first, because that would be the next logical step. The first would be, well, there's a judge making every determination at your door. They can't do that. Okay, so then just like normal laws, the cops will have to arrest you and take you before a judge to make that determination whether you're here legally or not. Same problem. This is an immigration thing. These are immigration laws. It's a special law. These are immigration judges, Okay, so I got to get this guy before an immigration judge. Well, there's not that many of them. So what do we do? Well, we're going to have to hold on to them for a while. All right, well, let's put them in a camp. They're in a camp, and they're waiting for their day in front of the immigration judge. But Trump wants to deport millions, and he wants to do it fast, right? Yeah. Hey, I'll get back to you, Durrani, in just a minute, right? Don't hang out, because I think that's a really valid point. Because, a lot of times I'm talking on the southern border, I'm talking about Latinos. That's what I know, right? But the same thing that I'm saying applies across the board. Any immigrant here that isn't, this is the part where it gets messy, guys. This is the part where it gets messy. Somebody has to make a determination that they think you are not here legally. Who's that going to be? That's going to be the law enforcement officers, the U.S. military, the people that Trump hires, right? His people. These are MAGA people. And guess what Trump spent the last 8 years doing? Convincing these people that immigrants are vermin and animals and dangerous and rapists. That's in their head. They're going to be the ones that walk up to you and make a decision on whether they think you're illegal or not. They don't have to make the final determination. They just got to think that you are. And if they think that you are, they can arrest you, throw you on a bus, and send you to go talk to a judge so you can prove you're not. They don't have to prove it. They just have to think you are. Right? That's where the danger lies. People making the determination that you need to go and prove your citizenship. And all they have to go on is what you look like and sound like and how you dress. We don't wear armbands. We don't wear stuff sewed to our shirt. They have to make that determination. So yes, immigrants in the United States, all the folks that look different than Trump's white rule are going to be looked at suspiciously under this new organization. Now, granted, it's unreasonable to think that they're just going to say, okay, go out and round up anyone you think looks, no. Yeah, sure. They're going to go after folks that we know are out there first, and they're going to try to put some semblance of order into it. But fundamentally, even then, somebody knocks on a person's door, they're going to look at someone and decide for themselves whether they believe you're here legally or not. Or, even if they don't believe it, they just want to give you a hard time and put you on the bus. And they're going to have the legal authority to do that. Trump has a Supreme Court. Trump is going to pass laws. The only way that this happens in mass quantity is if he makes it easier. Have you guys heard Donald Trump talk about how he's going to, I apologize, I don't remember what it's called. But right now, law enforcement officers enjoy a certain protection, which basically means that, if they're doing their job and they arrest somebody or they violate their civil rights, that person can't sue them directly. That was there for a long time. Under Biden, and they changed some of that. They've removed some of those laws so that cops can be held liable. Well, Trump's basically arguing to defend that, basically making it so that law enforcement can't be held accountable when they make a mistake, right? For cops, that's great because they're protected. For the rest of us, that means that cops can do whatever the fuck they want and get away with it. He said that. You think that's not going to apply to this whole immigration roundup? It absolutely is. He has got to remove and make it easier for law enforcement officers to make a determination if they think that you're here illegally, right? Okay, that's the problem. So we have to make some sort of determination. If we believe that the laws are going to still be in place and that everyone in America still has a day in court, that means that these people are going to have to go in front of a judge. But to get in front of a judge, somebody is going to have to actually arrest them or detain them because they believe that they need to be in front of that judge. And the people that are making that determination are not going to have consequence if they get it wrong. They're already racially biased because of the last 8 years of Trump convincing you that all of these guys are evil, right, and bad. They're going to get it wrong a lot, and they're not going to give a shit. They're going to run around, and anybody they think doesn't look like them, they're going to put on the bus and they're going to round them up and they're going to send them and they're going to put them in a camp. And they're in that camp, they're going to be waiting for some judge to make a determination. But wait a minute, even that's going to take too long. Right? Trump doesn't want people sitting in a camp for 2 years waiting for a judge. No, they're going to have to change the law. They're going to have to suspend habeas corpus and other constitutional rights in order to mass deportate these people. Deport these people. Otherwise, it's going to take too long. Right now, it takes 4 years just to get an asylum case in front of a judge. Now we got millions of people that are coming across trying to prove their citizenship, their legal status as an immigrant, right? You think that's going to be quick when it takes 4 years for someone just to say, I need asylum? No, it isn't. You think that they're going to hire 1 million new judges? No, they'll get some more. But they're going to learn quickly that they're going to have to change the laws. They're going to have to martial law some shit because we just don't have that kind of time to get these people out of here. So what that's going to slowly turn into is empowering people, law enforcement officers, immigration officers, U.S. military, to grab somebody out of their house because they suspect them for being here illegally and kicking their ass right across the border. That's what's going to happen. Sounds crazy. Explain to me how else this works. It doesn't. Laws are going to be changed. Rights are going to be removed and suspended. Cops are going to be empowered with a lot more power than they have now, and all accountability is going to be removed from them. The only way to efficiently remove that many people from this country is you got to fucking break some laws or change them. Oh, by the way, guess who's immune to any personal liability for breaking the law as president? Trump do whatever the fuck he wants. He ain't gonna get in trouble. Oh yeah, and Trump cares about the country, so surely he won't break the law and violate civil rights because he's a good guy. Bullshit. Damn straight he will. The only thing that might have kept him in his check is because he feared going to prison. He ain't got to worry about that anymore. Motherfucker can do whatever he wants. American citizens will be deported. Mark my words. Latin American citizens will be deported in a disproportionate amount. All American citizens that are not Anglo-white Saxon dudes and women maybe are at risk of getting caught up in this massive immigration roundup. All of us, all of you. So yeah, Durrani, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So you came over here, and it sounds like that, part of the Afghanistan war, you were brought over here legally. Maybe give us a little notes as to your situation. You know what's really jacked up is that you came over here probably because you helped the U.S. military while you were in the Middle East, while you were there. And because of that help, we allowed you to come in here, not just because as a reward, thank you for helping us, but mostly to protect you because you aided us, get you the hell out of that place that's now, that's dangerous. I don't know the situation, but in any case, you, amongst all people, deserve the protection of the United States. You deserve to be in this country more than a lot of people that were born here. And yeah, absolutely, you're here on legal status. You're probably not a citizen, but you're legally an immigrant, right? And I'm not saying that you absolutely will be deported, because I don't believe that all of you will, that all immigrants here on legal status will be deported, but some of you will get caught up in this damn chaos and this mess. Some of you absolutely will. And the thing is that the people making that decision right now, they don't give a shit about you. That's the problem. They're racist. They're misogynist. This is why it was so dangerous putting Trump and his people in office, because of their belief system of what they think and who they feel. At some point, they have to make decisions about humanity. They have to look at you, and you are an Arab American or an immigrant legally here from the Middle East. They have to look at you and decide, am I going to help this guy or am I not going to help this guy? He doesn't look like us. And I don't care if he got here legally. I don't want him here. Boom. You're out. It absolutely can happen. People on the right now think that folks on the left are fear-mongering. No, fear-mongering was before today or before election. That was fear-mongering. That was us trying to tell you and warn you, dude, be afraid, it's going to get bad. And that didn't work. So what we're doing now isn't fear-mongering. It's fucking reality check. It hasn't happened yet, though. That's right. That's right. But if we don't tell you what's going to happen, and then it happens, you're not going to have anyone to look back to say, oh, they were right. Yeah, that's why we're doing this. Because there's still opportunities in the future. Hopefully, we still have the opportunity to go vote in a couple of years and change the Congress. And then 2 years after that, to have another shot at convincing you guys you were wrong. So very important for us to take advantage of what's happening now to remind you from real experience that you were wrong. You fucked around, guys. And now you're going to find out. And somebody has to remind you of that. We have to tell you that. I promise you this, though. There will be a little, I told you so, dumbass. But it's also, I told you so. Can you now please stop? Can you now please understand? Can you now fucking vote the right way? Your family had to get deported before you fucking understood. I don't care, but you understand now, right? You get it? You get it? You understand? But Blue, you get it? That's our objective. That's what we're going to do. That's our fucking mission. Between now and the next election, all of us on the left that are resisting Donald Trump have to, find all of the mechanisms that we can directly resist in the courts. Everything that we can do. We have to protect people, right, that are subject to this. Even those that voted for. We have to protect Americans against what's happening as best we can. But most importantly, we have to change minds. You didn't listen before. You stuck your damn finger in the socket. You're getting electrocuted. We have to say, we were the ones that told you not to do that, right? And you got to be like, yeah, dude. Okay, fine. Pull it out. It's important that you understand that we were right. And that you have to learn that we were right. So that in the future, you can change your fucking vote. You can change your mind. You can get your head out of your ass. Fuck around and find out is a reality. And we're living it. We're not fear-mongering. We're trying to remind you of what we've been saying. Because, again, people on the left just tend to know more. And you don't. So I'm sorry to say it. Mass deportations are going to be really fucking bad. Either our best hope is that Trump says, fuck that, doesn't want to waste time with it. Because, he lies. He told everybody he was going to do that so he could get elected. Our biggest hope is that he just gets bored with it and goes off and does some other dumb shit. I don't think so. Because I think that he's got people in his party, like Stephen Miller, that are flat out racist. And they are going to come to bear and push and execute on that idea. And again, I've explained it already. I know some of you weren't here when I did. But there is no way around the fact that American citizens are going to be deported. You can't explain to me a process that would basically make that not happen. And if you put a mechanism in place that would ensure American citizens and legal immigrants are not deported, what you end up with is our current immigration system. Because all of those safeguards are in place today to ensure the wrong people aren't deported. That's not working clearly. People are saying, no, something's wrong. We got to deport people. So they're going to have to change the system. They're going to have to change how we do that. They're going to strip people of their rights. They're going to change the laws. They're going to empower law enforcement officers and remove accountability on those people. And in the process, somebody's going to have to make a determination whether or not you're here legally or not. And the only thing they're going to have to start with is how you look. To even know if I should question that person. To even know if that person needs to be sent over to the camp so that the judge can make a final determination. American citizens are going to end up in concentration type camps waiting for some judge to determine if they can actually be here legally. The way that judge determines that is going to change because they have to. If they go through the current process, that's years. That's not going to work for Trump. It's going to have to be a lot fucking easier for that judge, or maybe not a judge. Maybe they'll come up with some other way to do it. And they'll have the support of the Congress. You know what's fucked up? I don't even know if we lost the House. Did we win the House? I've been so riled up that I haven't even paid attention. I've been so disappointed by what happened. And, you know, having the house is such a huge thing. I've seen people say that we still have it. I don't know. Is it still open? It makes a huge difference. Oh, God, please. It will make a difference if we can maintain the house. Anybody watching know? Hey, I saw somebody gave me some coins or something. Thank you. Was that Tony? Thank you, man. I appreciate that very much. So, yeah. So my conversation here about mass deportation is really about what it's really going to look like. And it's based on not just history and facts from what we've done before, but also just a practical application of this operation. Practically speaking, the only way that they do this necessitates that they change the rules and they change the laws. They make it easier. When you make things easier, you're removing the safeguards. The reason shit's slow is because we're protecting people and their civil rights. We're protecting people in this country from being unjustly judged and decided on. And that process is slow. You have to have probable cause to make an arrest. You have to have a judge determine if that arrest was even proper. Then you have to go through a jury or a judge to determine if you actually broke the law. That process is way too slow for Trump, right? So he's going to have to change those rules in order for him to mass deport millions of people in this country. Those rules are going to have to change. And when you change those rules, inevitably, people that would have been protected from those or by those rules won't be anymore. And who are those people? Those are the people that are here legally. Those are U.S. citizens that don't speak a lot of English. Those are U.S. citizens that look like the immigrants that they're trying to deport. Those people won't have the same protections that they did before. They're going to get caught up in this chaos. They're going to end up in these camps. They're going to end up in another country saying, but I'm a citizen. It's going to happen without fucking doubt. And it's going to happen quick. And it's going to be bad. Millions. So what are we going to do while it's happening? Because this is just one of a lot of shit that's going to get really bad, right? What's really important for us to do, and this is part of what I want to do with the American Project or the America Project, is we need to collect that information. We need to collect stories, and we need to share it amongst ourselves, and we need to strategize on how do we translate that story into a consistent message that we can mass flood social media and everywhere with, and our community, so that they don't lose sight of the fact that we told you so. And it isn't to gloat. It's to convince you finally through actual real experience that you were just wrong and it's okay. Come back to reality. See, your sister got deported, right? And she's an American citizen, right? Remember, we told you that was going to happen. Do you believe us now? Okay, Democrats, I believe you. Good. Come back and vote. That's our objective, right? Before it was just words. And for the people listening, they didn't know who to believe. They didn't believe reason and facts. Trump was more convincing with his lies. But now reality is about to set in. It's the find out phase of the fuck around and find out is about to happen. So if we aren't prepared to leverage that reality, to change minds in the right way, to tell them that there is and was another option, then we're missing our opportunity. We have to do that, or else this whole country's fucked. Don't forget, Donald Trump was elected president, but he's not a dictator yet. We haven't lost our rights yet. That's the transitional period that's going to happen during his presidency. And we're going to fight it hard. We're going to fight it fucking hard. He's got 2 years to make some real shit happen, right? Because in 2 years, there's an opportunity for us to take back the Congress. And with a strong Congress, we can resist the executive branch running rampant. I don't know that this can happen, but oh man, I don't understand why Joe Biden doesn't stack the court. Can he still do that? Is there time? Fucking do it. It's been done in the past. If there isn't a need now, based on not just what the Supreme Court did, right, the decisions they made, the motivation behind how they made it, the corruption that has already been exposed in the Supreme Court, and the clear plans of what's going to happen in the future. Now's the time to go in and add 3 or 4 more judges. Trump can't remove Supreme Court judges. If we get them in there, we can take the Supreme Court back. And then maybe in 2 years, take the Congress back and resist this fucking movement, right? And I mean, part of me is like, I'm just a guy. I'm thinking, stack the Supreme Court. I have to hope, because I've always argued that I didn't think Biden did enough. I don't think he understood and respected the true danger that Trump represented. He came, he took office, and he just tried to do a lot of good things for America, thinking they weren't listening. The fact that Trump was ever president meant that they weren't listening to reason and facts, right? It was something else. So while Biden was out doing nice things, Trump was out there lying to motherfuckers every single day, beating the lie into their head, and it worked. So it doesn't matter how great you were, Biden. You lost the political game. You lost the public, I don't know what the word is, the message, the oratory game, right? The populist thing, the social media game, whatever you call it, the marketing. We didn't sell the product good enough. I'm not blaming Biden saying he was evil, but it's part of why I was so excited when Kamala got selected, because I felt she had a better chance to fight the right fight. You can't just sit back and be nice. Now, she was also nice. But there's also this thing, too. By the time she came on board, you can't counter 8 years of brainwashing and lies with, hey, look at us, we're good. That's not going to work, man. They already don't believe you. So that's what I think has to happen over a period of time, right? We have to use the same tactics Trump did to convince people by beating them with it every single day, except he was beating in the lies. We have to beat in the truth. We have to be nonstop and consistent with putting it in your face. Truth, 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 right? If Trump tells you a lie 3 times, we have to tell you the truth 12 times. That's where we're at. That's how you counter it. That's why I say we can't ignore MAGA moving forward. We have to battle. We have to in the communities, right? So we have to arm ourselves with the information, the tools, and the process on how to do it. And then we have to execute on that. And over a long period of time, it has to be homegrown. Because from the top down, media, politicians, Democratic, they're not going to break the ceiling. We have to come from the bottom up. We're in here. They're our neighbors. You sit next to them at church. You see them in the grocery store, right? They can't escape you. You have to get in their face in the right way. And this is what we're going to work on together. You have to put the information in their face from our level. It's the only way we're going to reach these people. And luckily and unluckily, there's a reality that we have at our side. The find out part, right? They fucked around. How are they going to find out? They're going to find out because we're going to remind them, or we're going to show them, we're going to tell them. All right, so I've been on for a while, guys. No, I still got a little bit more time. I'm just getting started with my lives. So from what I understand, you got to put in like 90 minutes, before things get good. So I'm going to start doing that. So I got a few more minutes to ramble on about this. But I want to get back to the immigration thing just a little bit, right? About the mass deportation thing. Because, the real question is, what is it that we're going to do, right? Again, think about what I was saying. In order for them to execute and do this to make this work for them, a lot of things are going to have to change just in our system, our process. People say it's impossible. Well, first of all, I will say this. I don't think he's going to succeed in doing to the degree that he wants to succeed. But he's going to do a lot of fucking damage in the process, right? I think there's a certain level of impossibility with what he wants to achieve. But there will be a situation similar to what happened in the 50s, right? We will end up with some semblance of a concentration camp because, again, you can't remove somebody from the country unless you give them a day in court or even just process them. You're going to have to take them out of their home or their place of business and put them somewhere while you figure out what plane to put them on or what bus to put them on. So there's going to have to be these large detention centers to accommodate these massive amounts of people. And they're not, this is a temporary thing, according to Trump. So they're not going to be, immigration facilities. They're going to be camps literally with tents, temporary facilities built just to process all of these folks. And then, so the idea of how are folks going to get in these camps, right? How do they get there is where the dangerous part lies. And I've said it a few times, but I don't know if I'll repeat it a little bit. Someone has to make a determination to decide whether or not that person needs to be on the bus to the camp so that they can be processed and it be determined if they are in fact here legally or not, because they won't be doing it at the place of business or at the house. That would just be inefficient, right? I can't sit here and have a whole hearing at everybody's house. So I got to get them out of the house. I got to send them somewhere so that they can make that determination, right? So the people that are making those arrests, right? And first of all, remember, Trump he's going to make sure that those people are immune to any accountability if they get it wrong. So these folks are going to be out there. We're talking about military and local law enforcement. Think about these $10 an hour cops are going to be out there knocking on doors, deciding if this person needs to go to the camp because we think they might be illegal. But here's my paperwork. It doesn't look right. So, go tell it to the judge. That's going to go over really well, right? You think American citizens aren't going to get wrapped up in that? They absolutely are. Get out, go get in the camp. I was a former Border Patrol agent, right? I spent a decade in law enforcement. Immigration law is one of the most complex laws that exists where people are associated, right? I'm talking about like tax law is pretty complicated, but people committing crimes. Why is that? Right? Well, first of all, because immigration law has changed over the decades. Every few years they make changes to it. And in determining somebody's citizenship, you have to, basically laws are retroactive. Like if it was legal, like if you could become a citizen in 1954 by serving in the military, and that's how you got your citizenship, then that stays true. Now, today, maybe that isn't. Today, maybe serving in the military doesn't automatically give you citizenship, right? Okay, so if I stop somebody and I have to determine if they're a citizenship, I've got to know when they got their citizenship, how they got their citizenship, and what the laws were at that time. And the laws have changed, right? And it's very complex. Well, I'm married to a U.S. citizen. My kid was born in Mexico while we were on vacation. I was in a U.S. territory in 1978. My husband is a U.S. citizen. I'm a citizen of Britain. Right. I came to the United States illegally. I was here as an illegal immigrant, but my son was born here. And his dad is a citizen, but we're not married. Pretty fucking complex because all of those factors, are involved. Why did I say that? Because right now, local law enforcement, military, even other federal law enforcement don't have the authority to enforce immigration law. Right. There were vast, different jurisdictions have different authorities, right? Based on what their jurisdiction is and who they are and what their, what's the word? I mean, where their authority comes from as a law. You're not a cop nationwide, right? A cop in bumfuck Texas can't go to LA and arrest somebody for breaking one of the laws. That's not how that works. You don't have jurisdiction. You don't do it. So understand that. Immigration officials have been trained and understand the law. That's why they're the ones with the jurisdiction and the authority to enforce immigration law. It's very complex. So either you hire 100,000 more immigration officers, wait for their long training session so that they can go out and enforce immigration law properly, or you to do one of two things, or two things, right? You empower others to enforce immigration law, and never mind that they don't understand the complexity of it. Just give them the authority. That will happen. And two, you change the immigration law to make it easier, a lot easier. When you make a law easier and you remove safeguards, right, that's when people fall susceptible. That's when people are victimized. That's why the law process, that's why our legal process is slow. Right? You hear about people in civil rights and people, law enforcement has to work. The reason you need probable cause, the reason you have evidence, the reason you have a right to a jury, it's to protect the citizens against the government. It's to protect the citizens from being unjustly detained, arrested, or deported. It's all of those, and those are slow. That's not going to jive with what Trump's trying to do. So he's going to have to change that, and he'll be able to. There are a lot of things he can do that will minimize that. And in the end, he might lose, but a lot of damage will be done. There will be people in Mexico that are U.S. American citizens in Mexico screaming, I'm a U.S. citizen. Now, eventually, they'll have a day in court. They'll sue. Maybe they'll get back. 10 years from now, they'll get $1 million from the government. it ain't going to minimize the damage. And Donald Trump doesn't give a rat's ass about civil rights and the damage to the government. He doesn't give a shit what's going to happen 10 years from now. He just wants everybody out so that he can look like a hero and ultimately claim that power that he truly wants. And that's to be a strongman, authoritarian dictator. That's where he wants to go. And his path to that is to continue to build this MAGA movement and make it bigger. Right? And it's very clear that his rhetoric worked because they're growing. And now he has the power, right, to prove to them that he was right. And he's going to start deporting people. He ain't going to care if they're legal or not. Right? He's going to make all of these big, crazy changes to do the things because he thinks that by doing these things, he's going to eventually win and become a strongman. The rest of us know all he's going to do is make a fucking giant mess. And like, for example, our economy is going to fucking tank. And it isn't going to be until it tanks, till a lot of his followers are finally like, oh, shit. And as much as they're going to try to blame someone else, like the left, however, I don't know how he's going to do that. He's going to try to blame other people for all the shit that goes wrong. It's going to go wrong. And it's going to be up to us to make sure everybody understands why it went wrong with evidence and fact and the reality of what's happening. And that's what we're going to do. Anyway, I'm going to let you all go. I got to get out. I got honeydews. It's the weekend. Happy Veterans Day weekend to all of you. I appreciate you jumping on board. I know I've had, intermittent people coming and going. Not a whole lot of folks, but that's okay. I'm new. I don't have a huge following. But I hope you join me. Stick around. If you're not following me, and a subscription would be cool. Anyway, appreciate y'all. Have a good day. Drive on. How do I stop this thing?